Hello everyone
Good
and
evening.
welcome.
Oh. Good evening and welcome to race 2 of the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 Championship here at Interlagos. My name is Joel Lask and I'm joined today by the one and only real life race driver Thomas Merritt. Thomas, how are you today?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Thomas, first and foremost, just before anything, how was testing at Anglesey?
Yeah, it was very positive. So yes, last Monday or this Monday just gone, I was up at Anglesey testing ahead of the Fiesta Junior Championship this year. It was very positive, thank you. First time at the circuit, and as I have my GCSEs, I'm actually unable to make Friday testing. So it was really important to sort of find the key points of the circuit and nibble down the times which we managed to do, and I think I feel very positive going into the third round of the championship. So love the circuit, car felt really nice, made a few adjustments in my own driving in the car as well. So yeah, I think feeling really good about it, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you manage to dial the setup in? But it sounds like you have. And what's your expectations for this season?
I mean, we were third in rookies last year, so I think it's definitely a potential for us to be fighting for the championship. Hopefully, I think we've got as good a chance as any. So yeah, I just want to get into it now. It feels like a very long wait over the winter. So on the 5th and 6th of April, we go green at Snetterton, which I can't wait for, and it should be a good weekend's racing.
Brilliant, it's great to hear it. Awesome stuff. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we'll get to see some of your racing highlights, be it online or in person. So yeah, great stuff. Good to see.
Brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant, cool. So we're going to just take a little look at last week and how that transpired. So Carl Felvis decided he was going to reign supreme across the rest of the grid and managed, what was it? So it was qualifying pole, race win, and then a reverse grid win as well. So absolutely dominated last week at Oulton Park, followed by Alexander Link and Alessandro Sciurti. So very interesting run from all three of them actually, and some really great racing that we saw from all the competitors out there. So if we have a look at the last week's race results as well, Carl Felvis is currently leading the championship with 62 points. Alexander Link on 51, Alessandro Sciurti on 50. They round out our top three. Andrea Ruggi on 46 points, Cristiano Bettini on 42, Josh Martin level pegging with him for 5th place on 42 points as well, Lorenzo Centra on 38, Jonathan Ogden on 8th with 26 points, Alex Forster on 25, and Thomas Potter rounding out the top 10 with 22 points. And quite a difficult round, I think, as well for Thomas Potter. Now we're on the case of him leading the second race by near on 7 seconds, and unfortunately just dropping a wheel on the first corner and putting an end to that race lead, which was quite a tough one, wouldn't you say, Tom?
Yeah, no, it's very tough as a driver, especially when you're in those sort of lead positions. It must be gutting for him, but I think he should be coming back stronger than ever at Interlagos, trying to gain back some very lost points, you could say, at Oulton Park. So yeah, I think he'll be fired up for tonight, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
As a race driver, how do you sort of mentally prepare yourself after something like that? Because we know Thomas Potter races karts in real life and has done his test to join the new Tokyo Junior Championship as well. How do you prepare yourself for something like that? You know, after, okay, albeit a sim race, but, you know, being in such a lead and then, you know, dropping it, how do you collect yourself and bring yourself back stronger for your next race?
Oh, well, you know, it's so difficult as a driver, being in those situations. But I think I work with a sports psychologist, which has really helped me last season. There's been certain points, you know, last season, I keep going back to it, but the one at Silverstone, the final round of the championship where we were on for a podium, and then we got T-boned into the final chicane on race 1, which meant the car was never the same over the rest of the weekend. But we still managed to finish that race in 7th, so although not all was lost, it was still super gutting, purely because, you know, you're in those good positions like Thomas Potter was, and to drop it, you know, so easy. It's just the tiniest of mistakes in motorsport, as you know. But yeah, I think there's certain ways you can prepare yourself. So for example, you know, visualization is a key one, and breathing, and just little tips like this can really help a driver bounce back quicker than ever to be able to get back on top of their mental state.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's dive straight into qualifying, because that's now just started. Let's see what's going to happen over the next 10 minutes or so now. Let's see who's going to be the dominant force and who could potentially put it on pole. I think, Carl Felvers could potentially be the one. I mean, looking at the practice times especially, everyone seems incredibly close. I must admit, from watching some of the practice, there's a lot of drivers struggling out there with rear end grip, especially into the last corner, and I think one of the drivers was talking about turn 4 as well. There's a bit of a bump in the middle of the track which is really upsetting the rear end of the car and really causing them to have to think twice about what lines they're taking and how they approach it. So it's shaping up to be quite an interesting qualifying session here. We do have a couple of extra drivers here as well. Nicky Taylor has joined the pack for the HFT team, who wasn't here last race, is for this one. We know he's an incredibly quick driver as well, races in real life in the Clios, won the championship last year in real life there as well. He's going for a second run again this year, so we've got some really strong talent here. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in terms of qualifying session as Alan Lyle goes in and puts in his first lap of a 1:35.7. Now that's more likely just a banker lap there. Let's see what the rest of the team can
Yeah, 100%. Just watching Adams then, there's a few cars rejoining already, so the track can definitely bite here in the F4 cars. Just doing a little bit of testing myself to get the head around what sort of the F4 cars are like around here. And it's a super bumpy circuit if you get off the circuit, like onto the curbs, etc. And the car, like you were saying, with rear end grip really struggles around here, so the drivers are going to be have to be extremely smooth on every input they make. And I think also as well, tyre wear is going to be a big one as well. It's very easy to scrub and make these little mistakes like lockups that we saw at Alton Park here. And I think it's going to be a circuit that punishes that, so it'll be interesting to see how the drivers cope.
Yeah, definitely. As we saw one of the HFT drivers up on the grass there, so maybe already starting to show signs of people pushing a little bit too hard on the first lap, maybe not bringing the tyres into the window they need. We've got on board at the moment with Adam Lyle, who's going for his first lap. I've got his banker time already, just coming into the last corner. This is where people started to get it slightly sideways. Struggle, very cautious in through there. Potentially left quite a bit on the table, but at the end of the day, you can get that banker lap in. That's what makes a difference potentially between qualifying up towards the top end of the grid and not. As he cuts the corner short here and takes all the inside as much as possible, get the shortest run to the line. What time's he going to do here? This is a 1:32.9, so right up there in the mix with the qualifying times. The rest of the drivers is a slight little luck up into T1. Alexander Link now in with a 9:38, so it was in 6,000ths of Adam Lyle, so that's a great show in there. It's good heat up to be an incredibly good qualifying session with 6 minutes 30 left. Let's see what the likes of Carl Felvers with a 1:33.1, so not quite on time with his practice times. As we see Thomas Potter go to the top with a 1:32.8, so this is shaping up to be an impressive qualifying session. It'll be interesting to see if he can hold on to that for the rest of the quali, but I would expect that there are a fair few drivers here that might try and challenge him for that reign.
100%. Just see Adam here making a few mistakes, but yeah, it's super close. This will produce some mega racing, I think. Thomas Potter only 6,000ths ahead of Giuliano in P2, and then Adam P3, Alexander P4. Kyle struggling a little more than Alton Park, 3/10 down, and when I say 3/10, it's certainly not the biggest of margins, but in this F4 championship, everything matters. So yeah, I think everyone's still improving. There's still 5 minutes left, so it'll be interesting to see what everyone's second times are like. But yeah, I think Interlagos has really separated sort of drivers that were struggling at Alton Park. They've come back now, and I think the likes of Carl and Alexander that we saw to be really strong at Alton Park might struggle tonight.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing I think that the drivers need to pay attention to on this track is just how many cars are going round. Obviously, it's quite a short lap to make sure that you find the gap that you need. And with the aero wash from the cars in front, really got to find that opportunity to get that clean up in. You don't want to be impeded by other drivers in potential down lap or slowing it down as Carl Felvers sets a purple second sector, so it's looking good for him. Let's see what he can achieve across the line here. And it is only P6. That's interesting. He did go quickest in sector 3 as well by nearly a 10.5, so potentially had a slight slip up for the first and second sector here, but he's pushing along. We may well see him do much better towards the back end of the qualifier, and we know he's quite a pocket rocket in this series already, as we've seen from round 1. So let's see what he can do. Welcome also to the YouTube chat. We've got a few people talking here already, wishing drivers the best of luck, so it's great to see. Please keep your comments coming. Kyle does have ballast as well, Linda, that is very true. So he's doing very well there with the ballast in here. So for those that are watching that don't know, success ballast is being applied to drivers throughout the race championship, just to balance things out a little bit and keep the racing as fair as possible, and to make things just a little bit more interesting. So yeah, Kyle running the highest ballast of anyone at the moment after his performance in round 1. So let's see where he can put it. Also, for those that aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, over 50% of the people that watch the channel aren't actually subscribed. So please make sure you like and subscribe, and you click that red bell that's just underneath the video below. We really appreciate it. It just helps us go further. If you can share this to friends and family and people around, that would also be great too, so that everyone can join and enjoy what we're up to.
Yeah, 100%. Get yourself involved with Phoenix Sim Racing. They're a brilliant community. They've just been a Motorsport UK recognised community as well on the eSport side of things. So they're doing a fantastic job. This F4 Championship is shaping up to be an amazing one, and we're only on round 2. And then obviously in the world of iRacing as well, they've got teams. So yeah, please do get involved, as it's such a well-respected community. And whilst I'm here as well, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Nerd PC, one of the championship sponsors. They've sent me a streaming microphone for the rest of the championship, which is really great from them. And yeah, I'd just like to say a massive thank you, as hopefully it will produce some better quality to my audio on the streams.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, big shout out to Nerd PC there. Some absolutely great stuff coming through from our sponsors here. We really appreciate your support too as we go on board here with Nicky Taylor. Half a tenth quicker in the first sector, potentially a little bit of traffic there from his teammate, but he seems to have it hooked up. Let's see what his sector 2 times look like. 5,000's up on his current time, predicted for a 32.7, so he might be able to nip in there. It's still not quite as good as what he needs for P1. 3/10 down the second sector, so definitely got caught up there, potentially with his teammate, which he might be kicking himself about here. I wonder if potentially they've got something, working out together between the 3 of them, because you do have Kyle Felvis, you do have Ethan Hill, and you do have Nicky Taylor. They're all together in this HFT team. As Nicky Taylor goes second with a 1:32.7, so brought it back in Sector 3 to put himself in a respectable second place. But as it stands at the moment, Giuliano Giarco with a 32.5 seems to be well ahead of the rest of the pack, nearly 2/10 up, well, 1/10.5 up on the rest of the field.
Yeah, 100%. He's got a really good gap, but I think obviously the toe will prove to be very prominent round here, and the top, 7 are separated by 4/10, so that's super close. And as we saw, there can be a little bit of carnage that unfolds at the start. And like Carl was referring to in the post-race interviews last round, I think it'll be really important as well to just stay out of trouble and bank those points, because we are only on round 2, so it'll be really interesting to see how drivers handle the racing.
Yeah, definitely, as Thomas Potter goes quickest in Sector 1 by 1/10. He's got a little bit of traffic here behind him, and he goes wide over that car. Well, that's a difficult one there for him. He's going to be kicking himself. He still has time, though, if he can get around the track, cool down those tyres and go out for a final lap. He should just about make it. May well be able to go a little bit quicker than he already has. He tucks in right behind. Is that Olivia? Is it Adam? It's Adam that he's tucking right behind. Adam looks like he's on a bit of a slow lap here. Not pushing as hard as what you would expect him to. In P5 with 32.9, but I think you're right. It shows that, the top, 6 or 7 or so are all separated by just about half a second now. Even Johnny Ogden in P8, Ethan Hill in P9. So, this could be anyone's. As Adam Lyle goes to set up his lap. As well as Thomas Potter, so we'll ride on board with Thomas Potter for this one and just see what he can do. As he comes down the back straight here, he's going to keep it nice and tight to the pit entry line. Oh, and he comes in, so that's it. That's Thomas Potter's qualifying. He's coming in P3. He obviously doesn't feel like he can go any quicker. As we go on board with Giuliano, again, not improving on his time. That's going to be it for him. Nicky Taylor's off and in the grass, so I'm not sure if he's had a little something going on there, but that's going to be the end of his qualifying. So it looks like here the top three is going to be Giuliano Giacco, Nicky Taylor, and Thomas Potter, first, second, and third. So an interesting end to the qualifying here, unless anyone can do any differently. Adam Lyle in fifth, Alexander Link in sixth, Cristiano Bettini in seventh, Johnny Ogden in eighth, Ethan Hill in ninth, and Lorenzo Centra rounding out the top 10. Did Lorenzo get round before the start, before the end of qualifying? That's the question. It looks like he did.
Yeah, indeed. Some drivers are on their last-ditch attempt here. But yeah, it's really interesting qualifying in terms of the positions. Very different to what we saw at Alton Park. Obviously, Kyle with that success ballast in P4, he's still done a great job to only be 2 tenths off, even with that success ballast. We've got Alexander in P6 when he was P2. So yeah, it's really mixed up the grid here. So it'll be interesting to see how everything kicks off, and like we see Nicky and Thomas doing a really good job, especially for Nicky on his first time here. So yes, great to see.
Awesome stuff. Okay, well, we're going to let the drivers come back round to the pits and get themselves ready for what will be the interesting race one. It's interesting to see the difference in the drivers, the qualifying positions for the first race compared to Alton Park. So we'll let them come back in, and we're going to go to a quick ad break now by one of our sponsors, and we'll see you after the break.
So hi everyone, and welcome back after a very interesting qualifying session there. We're just going to interview Giuliano here, which put in a mega lap at the beginning of qualifying, and then was just chipping away at it and managed to hold on to it. Giuliano, how do you find driving Interlagos in the F4 cars after a little bit of testing this week that I've done prior to this round? It's been interesting. So what's your take on it?
Giuliano praticamente ti chiede come hai preparato la macchina per fare questo giro veloce così pazzesco, e come ti sei preparato, quanti test hai fatto e via dicendo.
Dico a te tanto, no?
Sì, dimmi a me.
Allora, no, digli che lo sai quello che abbiamo fatto, lo sai, puoi dire anche a te.
So we make so many practice with the car. We try to go more faster in the principal in the first sector, and but we see the car it's not so good in the second sector. So we work a lot for this, but everything will be alright, and Giuliano can make a really good lap for the qualifying, and we are so happy about this, and we say thanks about him and the team, because we work all together, and we practice so much for this.
Yeah, 100%. He's put in such a mega lap here, and actually all of your team are looking competitive for the races. Giuliano, one other question I had for you was what are your sort of thoughts going into the race? Is it sort of survival tactics, or are you going for the outright win to get your name on the winner's circle in this championship?
e ti chiede se farai una gara conservativa oppure andrai a cercare di vincere per andare
No,
poi a
no, cercare
conquistare.
di vincere.
So he try to win this race 1 and race 2, I think, because he won't try to start to go to the to take the leadership to the championship.
100%. That's every driver's goal, and I think that's the right attitude to have going into this race. Final question I had for you was after sort of mixed emotions after Alton Park. Are you feeling confident about tonight and the rest of the season? Obviously, your pace is reflecting that. So I was just wondering sort of what your thoughts are for the overall championship and the confidence going into this race.
E ti chiede praticamente se pensi che la macchina sia pronta per conquistare il titolo oppure se pensi che sia stata solo per questa gara, Giuliano.
No, penso che la macchina possa lottare per il titolo.
You think the car can fight for the championship? So we prepare this race, but we are ready for the next one in Austria. So we try to do our best here, but we are looking for the next race already.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that, guys. Good luck for the race, and have a good one. And hopefully, we'll be talking to you again.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much.
Grazie.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so there we have it. Qualifying is complete. Giuliano Giaco is on pole, and it's always great when we have someone to translate for us. I think it just goes to show we have drivers from all around the world coming to race with us here at Phoenix Sim Racing, and it's absolutely awesome to see. One thing that definitely piques my interest is, after the first round at Alton and having such a dominant performance by Carl Felvers, is that we're going to start to see people get a little bit more in tune with the cars, figuring out the setups, finding out what works for them, what doesn't, especially with these teams coming in too, like the WRT team, HFT, etc. How are these teams going to work together to really make an effect on this championship? Because it could be potentially that one driver in one of the teams is actually running away with it per se, or doing better than the others, and do they look to work together and try and bolster their positions as a team, or do potentially two of the drivers in one team hang back a little bit and try and support their lead driver? So it's kind of all to play for, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a really another key point to touch on going into this race is Giuliano is quite hung out to dry, if you will, after that qualifying session. Not a lot of his teammates are up there, so it's going to be interesting to see how maybe other teams that have qualified quite near each other at the front of the field potentially work together or try and get out in front of him and then work together to try and get away. But I think Giuliano will have it covered. He's shown lots of pace in qualifying, so I think we're in for a treat of a racer.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not exactly like there's any front row lockouts here or anywhere further down the grid. So you've got obviously Giuliano on pole, but then you've got Nicky Taylor and then Thomas Potter. So a bit of a sandwich there for Thomas Potter, and I guess he'll be hoping to try and make some success out of this race compared to the last round that he was in. So some good points on the table here for those that can just hang with it. We've got a lot of fast drivers in this championship. And a lot of them that are all desperate to win these prizes, and there's a great assortment of prizes out there for people to win. Obviously, first place is going to win that 15 Newton meter Camus wheelbase, which is what I think everyone is probably going to be going for. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what everyone can do. But let's not count out some of the people that are further down the grid. Your likes of Adam Lyle, Johnny Ogden especially. He's an incredibly quick driver and a real life race driver too in the Focus Cup, and just started his next championship, which he's currently in way of now, and actually is also, if anyone hasn't seen it, he's got a race documentary that's out on YouTube, so search that up and give it a watch. It's absolutely brilliant, absolutely phenomenal, and some great videography that was done for that too. So if you haven't seen it already, go see it. Absolutely brilliant stuff.
Yeah, 100%. After watching it myself, it was a great documentary, and yeah, I encourage all the viewers out there to go and give it a watch and go and support Jonathan. But Yeah, only 3 minutes now until the start of the race, so obviously tensions will be starting to build inside the car. Maybe some nerves starting to build, but yeah, I think touching on the point of like mental games going into the race and stuff earlier in the stream, I think it'll be important for everyone just to, well, as best as you can, just stay nice and relaxed, and just focus on that start and then the approach to turn one. I think with Giuliano, it will just be about sort of what we saw from Kyle in race 1 at Alton Park, just cementing that lead, and then just building on it every single lap and not taking any silly risks. So I think that'll be what his goal is, but yeah, I don't think Nicky or Thomas or Kyle or Adam, etc. will make it easy for him.
Yeah, with Giuliano on the outside, so there is an opportunity here for Nicky Taylor and also for Kyle Felvis lining up behind Nicky to maybe make a move into the first corner. Obviously, it's a long race. Races aren't won on the first corner, but I'm just looking at the YouTube chat here with 2 minutes to go. Max Wright asking commentators, no commentating curses today, please. We will keep it to a minimum. We do not want to curse anyone. The commentator's curse is real, and we do not want to curse absolutely anyone because it does happen. It happened in the last round for Thomas Potter with his 7-second gap, so we will keep stum around that one. But it'd be great to see in the YouTube chat who your bets are on, who you think will win this race. That'd be great. If you could start posting that in there, it'd be great to see, and we'll have a look and see what people's money is on. There's 1 minute left to go for the start of the race. You can hear the engines revving up already. People warming up that oil temp and getting ready to go. Everyone locking in and getting into the zone, getting ready to go, because it's a long race, 20 minutes plus 1 lap. As we say, it can't be won on the first corner, but there will be some opportunists that potentially try and make some dicey moves to try and make their way up the grid. There's a fair few drivers that are slightly out of position from where they normally would be, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do. But aside from that, let's get excited for the race as we now count down to the final minute before the race start. I'm sure nerves will be flowing between all of the drivers, and let's see what they can do down into turn 1.
Yeah, indeed, super excited for this one. After some mega racing at Alton Park, I think this will prove just to be as action-packed, if not a little bit more, with a few more overtaking opportunities, bit of a wider circuit. So yeah, 30 seconds to go. Super excited for this one. And yeah, let's get into it. I mean, I don't know who the money's on. And like I say, commentator's curse, just going to keep it neutral at the moment, and yeah, see what happens.
Well, with that, Thomas, I will let you call the start of this race. Off to you.
Yeah, so 10 seconds now. Lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the lights eventually go out after a very long wait. And we are racing here at Interlagos. Giuliano with a very good start. Nicky under pressure a little bit from Thomas Potter. So yeah, it's interesting going into turn 1 here. Thomas looking on the outside, but he's got Adam up his inside as well. Kyle is that, sorry. So yeah, very racy. So now everyone's sort of made it through turn 1. So now we'll be on the approach as Nicky Taylor is fighting with Giuliano.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here to go on board with Nicky Taylor, who's dived up the inside and has made it stick as well. So a great move from him. Must have got an incredible run out the first corner as he takes a dominant lead. Now we know with Nicky Taylor, who's an incredibly quick driver, very focused and knows what he needs to do. So does he go on the defensive now, or does he try and hang it around the outside? As we see Giuliano now dive up the inside, and he's made the move stick. Oh, it's an absolutely awesome start as we see Thomas Potter dive through into second place. Nicky Taylor now down into third, with Carl into fourth. So switching up across the board here, it looks to see like absolutely everyone has made it through, which is absolutely brilliant. It sounds like everyone heeded the words in the driver briefing to make sure that they made it through, which is what we want to see. We want to make sure that everyone makes it through and has an enjoyable race, as Giuliano now has a 6/10 gap to Thomas Potter. Seems to be holding his own against the 2 HFT drivers, but now's an opportunity for him to just push on, get his head down and chase after.
Yeah, now it'll be really interesting to see how effective the toe is here. Obviously Giuliano with no toe, Thomas Potter right in the toe there, taking Nicky and Kyle and Adam and etc. with him. So be interested to see, like you see, 4/10 is the gap as they come across the line. So I think the toe is effective, not as much as I thought it was, as Nicky is almost into the back of Thomas Potter. They're both locking up, which could be the gap that Giuliano needs to just gap.
Now, this is the situation that these team drivers face themselves in, as Carl Felvers now goes for the move on Nicky Taylor. He has got that ballast, so he's a little bit underperformed. But will he make it stick into here? I wonder if there's team orders in play as we do in F1, as Carl Felvers goes through on Nicky Taylor. I think Nicky had to concede that one. I don't think he was going to stick it around the outside, as now Nicky Taylor under pressure from Adam Lyle that's now going around the outside. Oh, it's a disaster for Nicky. He needs to be able to get his head down now and try and push back after the top guys, because they're going to start disappearing incredibly quickly. We don't want to be involved in battles right at the start of the race here, because you're going to start to lose grip on the front guys in clean air. As a great battle here from Nicky Taylor and Adam Lyle. It looks like Nicky's managed to hold his own. Let's see if he can push on and chase back after Kyle.
Yeah, indeed, Adam was not making it easy for Nicky there, and I don't think this battle is over either. As we see Alexander as well, right behind them, trying to pick up the pieces here, but it'll be interesting to see how much Adam gains on Nicky down this straight, and if there's going to be a potential move into turn one. As we see Giuliano just building the gap now, gaps a little bit from Thomas Potter, but Kyle is right there as well, so yeah, it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, some impressive driving here from the sort of top 5, top 6 here. Bunching out just a little bit as Thomas Potter has a big lock up into the first corner, which isn't going to do him any good. Runs right over that exit curve onto the back straight here, so he's going to lose a little bit of top end. But if I'm looking at this right, I think he's probably gained just about a 10th on first place here with Giuliano. So Thomas Potter maybe making a bit of a push now. Knows that he's got Carl Felvers and Nicky Taylor behind him. Knows what they're like. He's raced with them in previous championships. Maybe just trying to build that gap and just try and push on and sort of keep out of their way. But what really is interesting is we've got a lot of battles going on in the back end of the field as well. As you have Sciurti here now having a battle with Lorenzo Sentra. And we were sort of 4 apiece here as Olivia gets overtaken by Tabaroni, and they're going side by side. Runs her out wide, and he's backed off and let her go through, which, to be fair, is interesting to see, but he's compromised his run here and now getting swallowed up by the cars behind him. A lot of squibbly rear ends, and I think we're going to see this throughout the rest of this race as well. The drivers really struggle to keep that rear end sort of planted and getting it nailed to the track. We saw, in practice and in qualifying, we spoke about it before. Several drivers really struggling, especially into this last corner that we watch here, to get the power down and not go too wide. They're either understeering into it or they're oversteering out, and you can see that by the skid marks and a lot of the marks on the grass itself here as well. So, yes, it's shaping up to be an incredibly good race here.
Yeah, indeed, as you say, the battles aren't only going on at the front. You see another huge lockup from Thomas Potter, but this is interesting, sort of coming from my driving background. Clearly minimum speed is really important in these cars, maybe not necessarily to get towards the apex, but just carry that speed through the corners, because we see Giuliano, he keeps getting a 10th out of him, so be interesting to see if this battle closes up. And Kyle is, I would say he's potentially a little bit quicker through the corners, but he's just losing it on the straights, obviously, with that success ballast, so it sort of evens out naturally. And then Nicky's right there on Kyle as well. But it'll be interesting to see if Nicky sort of works with Kyle, because obviously Nicky missed the first championship round and Kyle scored very well there, so it'll be interesting to see if he lets him bank the points for the championship.
Yeah, for sure. And in the drivers' briefing, there was a lot of drivers warned about track limits. I understand it's very difficult in these cars to, point the car in the right direction for one, and think about a million and one things as they're driving. But we do have to think about post-race penalties, and anyone that potentially is running wide and exceeding track limits are potentially gaining an advantage, as a lot of the drivers really run quite close to the edge of the track on a lot of the corners here. So don't count your chickens just yet, as Catherine Potter gets overtaken by Ricardo Lina for 14th place here. And the field's just starting to split up just a little bit. We're starting to see pockets of drivers now. Everyone's bunched up now. You've got groups of maybe 2, 3, 4 drivers that are all going in together. As Giuliano then sets a 1:32.7, so a 10th quicker than Thomas Potter. He's dropped back by about half a second. So potentially Thomas just settling in, just seeing what he can do with the tyres. We don't know how these tyres are working for the drivers. It could be a case that, they're just letting them settle in, bedding them down, and, there's still 13 minutes left of this race, plus 1 lap. They may well find that it's a lock up again from Thomas Potter. potentially hasn't quite got his brake bias set how he likes it, stamping that brake just a little bit too hard, which is going to start to flat spot the front tyres. He's going to feel the vibration in his wheel here, so he needs to make sure he's careful with that. That's really going to hinder him towards the back end of the race, just as the tyres start to overheat, as Carl Felvis now dropped off 2 seconds from Thomas Potter. So again, look, we're not going to count him out just yet, because we know how good of a driver Carl really is. I wonder if he's just waiting to see if Thomas can push up onto the front of first place here and maybe try and capitalise on it. If Thomas Potter again locks up into that right-hander, so it's all to play for here.
Yeah, 100%. I think Thomas is using his tyres a little bit too much, but there's still 12.5 minutes to go. We see him have a big rear-end slide on the entry to the final corner there, and Kyle is there and thereabouts. He's now in the tow, so Thomas has lost the tow to Giuliano, so it'll be interesting to see if this battle closes up. Kyle obviously can't do anything too stupid because obviously of his championship hopes.
Don't want to stop you here, but Ethan Hill, one of the HFT drivers that was up in 8th place, has spun on that last corner, and we were just talking about this, so sorry to interrupt you on it. But, we know that last corner is incredibly difficult for some drivers. Just got Ethan Hill out, so he's dropped down to 13th. Olivia's just managed to get ahead, so that'll work well for her. She's working alongside Adam Lyle as part of a race team here as she goes round the outside into T1. Will she make the move stick, which looks like she does? Big lock-up going onto the entry, but has made it last, and a great run on the out here. Will she hold the position, or has she just compromised her exit just a little bit too much and lost the top end? Is she going to defend, or is she going to stick to her place? As we see Forster now come up the inside again. Is he going to make the move stick? Which he does. Olivia has to concede a little bit of wheel bang in there. Both have made it through the corner unscathed, but again, this is losing them time. This is what we start to see is, you know, the more that you battle in these cars, the biggest drop-offs that you find are just in these battles, and allows drivers behind to really jump in and get involved and get stuck in. So just notice Thomas Potter here as well, dropped down just under a second behind P1, which is interesting. He's down to 8:10, so he just dropped it again, so potentially another lock-up for him as he comes into the last corner. If he can get a good run out of here, potentially try and jump into the toe of P1 and see what he can do.
Yeah, 100%. Like I referred to earlier, Thomas really, I think, struggling with those tyres or using them a little bit too much. And like you referred to, brake bias could be an issue or setup in the car because he doesn't look comfortable. He looks like he's going to really have to be on the ragged edge to be quick, which is not the ideal scenario. As we see Giuliano have a big lock-up as well as Thomas Potter. Gap only now 8/10, so if Giuliano puts any foot wrong, Thomas is there to pick up the pieces, so the pressure is on at the moment. As we see Kyle again in P3, and yeah, it's super close.
Yeah, 10 minutes left to go of the race, plus 1 lap. So we're on board with Catherine Potter now. He's on the outside. We've got Jordan Osborne now up the inside, and a great move to take 17th place. Again, very quick driver in Jordan Osborne, potentially out of position slightly. Got a little bit clean air, about a second to the car in front. So interesting to see what he can do, and if he can just try and pull away now and try and make up some positions. There's a big crash here from Ethan Hill, who's put it on his top, and he's gone back to the pit. Cool, that was a big incident there for him, and probably one that he'll want to forget. Hopefully he's okay after that crash, as that's really ruffled up the back end of the grid here, and you can gain some places off the back of it. Who's this going slow? Ricardo Lena going incredibly slow now, letting drivers through, so I wonder if he's had an issue. Potentially he was the one that was part of that incident with Ethan. Potentially trying to let him back through. Maybe there was a little scuffle there, and now back on his way, but that's now putting back down to 23rd. So a real tough start to the race for him. As we now see Thomas Potter a second and a half off of Giuliano, so Giuliano really commanding a dominating lead here. 1.5 seconds ahead, almost making it look easy. It must be a track that really suits him, or he's found the perfect setup for. I mean, you know, we discuss these things around lockups and, you know, people going into corners maybe a little bit too hot, and setup changes they might need to make. I mean, if we go off of, you know, just even my personal sim racing experience, you know, lockups like that, we really want to drive that brake bias back a little bit to stop the fronts from locking. Just try and carry that speed through into the corner. So it might be a change that Thomas Potter needs to make for the second race, or potentially during the race if he can do so. As Adam Lyle takes a position from Nicky Taylor, so potentially a slight issue there for him as he clings back onto the back of Adam Lyle. But it would be interesting to see what these two can do as we go on board now with Nicky Taylor. Can he catch back up? No ballast on Nicky, remember, so, you know, his first race in these F4s, incredibly quick. Can he potentially get past Adam?
Yeah, as you alluded to there, that battle really started to heat up. I was actually watching it from my perspective, and there was a little bit of elbows out there from Adam, a few little wheel banging through the corner. So a great move there, because it wasn't too aggressive, but he got his nose down the inside and was able to make that pass effectively. But Nicky is right there in the toe again, and Adam has run a little bit wide on that curb. So it'll be interesting to see if Nicky has now got the run, which I think he does, in the toe with Alexander just behind. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any moves, which I think there will be into turn 1.
Yeah, Nicky's going to tuck right in on the back of him. It's interesting to go to the outside as Adam Lyle hugs that inside, takes the shortest route he can, and he swings out wide, and actually he's left himself vulnerable here for Nicky Taylor to dive up the inside. Is Nicky going to be late enough on the brakes to go into the first corner? And he doesn't. Actually, Adam brakes incredibly late and locks up. Might have messed up his corner entry here, which he has. And now it's just given Nicky Taylor the opportunity now onto the straight to tuck back into that toe and send him. But Adam Lyle holding that inside line. Who's going to be the latest one on the brakes here? This is going to be the interesting one as they go side by side into the braking zone. And there's a big off there, and Adam Lyle and Nicky Taylor collide. And Nicky Taylor's come off worse here as he spins it back round. Hopefully he's not got too much damage. Oh, that might be one for the stewards there.
Yeah, that was very heavy contact on the entry. I don't really know you can put the blame on it. Happened all so fast, but there was potentially a little bit of moving in the braking zone, potentially only minor though, because I think it was basically one person moving, the other person moving, they met in the middle, and Nicky came off worse. So unfortunately for Nicky there, it's not the greatest start to his Phoenix Sim Racing F4 Championship campaign, but even so, he should be incredibly happy with the pace he's got, and at the moment his car doesn't seem to have too much damage. Obviously I'm not driving it, but he's getting on with it, and he's got a nice gap behind, so hopefully he might still be able to bring back some points.
Yeah, so we just go on board with him. It doesn't look like his steering's out or his tracking's out or anything like that, so he should be a-okay to continue on. There's a little bit of understeer out of that last corner. Maybe his rear tyre's a little bit too hot as he spun it around to get it back going again. Just looking at the YouTube chat here, Ethan Hill had a PC meltdown in his game pros, unfortunately, so it's a really tough one for him. Seems to be plagued with PC issues recently, so hopefully he gets that sorted for the second race and can bring himself back into contention, because we know he's a fast driver too. As the grid's really starting to spread out now. We've got Giuliano now a second and a half, so he's maintaining that gap to Thomas Potter. There's a second and a half down. Does Thomas have the pace that he needs to chase him down? We look at Thomas's last lap of 1:33.3. Giuliano with 1:32.9, so about 4 tenths quicker than Thomas going into there. He's now extended the gap to 1.7 seconds. And then Carl Felvis in third, who's now 4.5 seconds off the pack. So potentially that driver ballast really starting to hurt him in the latter stages of this race, and really hurting him and giving him a bit of understeer. As we can see into this corner, he's really having to slow the car right down as he dives these apexes here, so potentially struggling just a little bit, but keeping the car on the straight and narrow. May mean some setup changes potentially for future races, to see what he can do to mitigate that. But you know, this is the whole point of the driver ballast, is to try and, you know, make this a little bit fairer, and give that success ballast to those who are really out in front. So you know, where it might hamper him in this race, you know, future races that ballast might change, and then give him the opportunity that he needs to fight back up at the top again.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even so, he's still P3 with some mega pace. So, yeah, he's definitely a huge championship contender for this championship. We see Giuliano's pace is really picking up towards the end of this race. As we alluded to earlier, potentially Thomas using his tyres to stay with him at the beginning of the race hasn't paid off on the end, because the gap is now 2.2 seconds. Giuliano driving an absolute mega race here. Don't want to jinx it, but yeah, it's been a good race from him so far. Adam in P4 and Alexander in P5, and then there's quite a big gap to Nicky in P6, which is actually a really good recovery considering the circumstances he was in a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, and one person we haven't spoke about much is Josh Martin, who we know is an incredibly quick driver, down in P7, lapping in the 1:34.1. Oh, and he's lost it just as we say it. That was not commentator's curse for anyone that's watching there. I don't want to put a spin on anything, but Josh just losing out maybe a little bit too hard on the brakes there, and that dropped him down to P10. He's going to be kicking himself for that one. But it's interesting to see that we're starting to see lap times really start to diminish now, where we didn't see that at Alton. A lot of the people that we spoke to, especially in the interviews, were saying that the tyres held on incredibly well. So My guess is that potentially these tyres aren't holding on as well as they did before, and actually drivers are going to have to think about in race 2 potentially just maintaining them and maybe not pushing too hard. I know you alluded to Thomas Potter pushing a little bit too hard at the start, and I think potentially that's coming to fruition. Thomas Potter's half a second down now on his last lap, and he's predicted for 33.4, so you know, 2.5 minutes left to go of this race plus 1 lap. He's going to have to pull something out special now to catch P1. And to be honest, as it currently stands, that might not happen. Could this just be a points drive for Thomas? I mean, don't get me wrong, P2 is incredibly respectable still, and he's doing very well, but it just goes to show, you know, some of these drivers here being able to manage their tyres, you know, keep themselves calm, level-headed, and just let the car do the work for them. Compared to some drivers that are really on the ragged edge. I think that just shows some of the pace that some of these drivers do actually have, and the command that they have over their cars. Josh Martin again loses the rear end of the car and now down to P13, so really struggling with that, potentially setup based, down now into P14, so he's lost a lot of places here, but let's not count him out for the reverse grid race, because you know, Josh Martin, as we've seen from previous championships that he's been in, can actually do incredibly well. It's a big lock up again. Wonder if those tyres just a little bit too hot again, potentially something to do with brake bias there. A lot of drivers potentially struggling here.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate for Josh Martin actually. Obviously on the first incident he got tagged round interestingly at turn 3, was sent into a spin, but potentially that second spin, maybe a little bit of overdriving, trying to make up for those lost places, but he's still doing a mega job conserving the places that he's got. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see for Josh, obviously as you alluded to, that reverse grid race. We know he's got the pace, he was running really well, and he's going to have a big advantage to the likes of Giuliano and Thomas up at the front, which could allow him to get to the front and get away.
Yeah, so just watch the battle for P17 and P18 here as Blendon LeBlanc, the VPG Racing, now chasing after Catherine Potter. Catherine with the big lock up into the corner before, as Brendan goes very wide into that last corner. Has ruined his run down the straight. He may still be just in touch and distance for toe. Let's see what he can do here, but I fear that he's just slightly out of the run in here, just to be able to get that move down into T1. As Catherine gets a much better drive, let's see who's better on the brakes. Let's see if he can make the move, or at least gain some time into T1. As Catherine with another big lockup. A lot of drivers struggling with this now. If he can get the run now into this next straight, potentially might be able to latch back onto the back of Catherine. But Catherine driving a great race there in P17, really holding her own. She's lost a couple of positions from the starting, but hey, look, it is what it is. It's now down to the drivers to really make the most of these tyres, as they almost sound like they're screaming towards the back end of this race. So we go on board now with Giuliano Giarco as he comes onto the final lap of the session. The clock's dropped down to 0 now, so this is plus 1 lap, so it's going to be the final lap for him as he crosses the line. About 7/10 down, so maybe just cruising. He's got a nice lead of 3 seconds as he starts the final lap, and we go on board with him. Thomas Potter 3 seconds adrift from him, although looking at the timings, Thomas Potter now matching him for time, so potentially either Giuliano here is, you know, just taking it easy, knows that he's got the race in the bag, or potentially struggling with the tyres. We'll look to see what he does into the next corner, into the braking zone, and see if there's any lockups again. But a strong showing from the top 3 here, as we're in the final lap.
Yeah, 100%. I think Giuliano will potentially just be sort of coasting towards the end now. No risks. He's built that nice advantage, so just a few more corners to navigate before he can call himself a Phoenix Sim Racing championship winner. Thomas Potter has done a really good race, like we alluded to earlier. He's really bounced back strong from Alton Park after a difficult showing of having those incidents.
Sorry to disturb you here, but Adam Lyle going off in P5, and he's lost it on the last lap of the race, which is going to give away his P5. That's a tough one for him, and he's going to be kicking himself. But we're going to go back to Giuliano Giarco now, coming into the last corner on the last lap with a dominating lead of 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds. He gets it squirrely on the exit, but he's not going to matter too much about that now. Nearly 4 seconds drift from Thomas Potter as he now hugs the last corner. I think he's got this sealed now as he tucks on the inside, and it looks like Giuliano now is going to take the win for the first time in the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 Championship. A big congratulations to him. Big well done to Thomas Potter. A very mature drive from him in P2 as he celebrates with a little flick of the wheel. Lucky he didn't lose it there. And Carl Felvis with a very good show in P3 with the ballast that he had. So big well done to him as Alexander Link takes P4. Nicky Taylor in P5, which is probably not where he wanted to be, but you know, from his first run out in the F4 World Series, a big well done to him. Esciotti in P6, Tabaroni in P7, Alex Forrester takes P8, and Lorenzo Centra comes into the pits, which seems a little bit interesting on the last lap. Just lost those positions there, but that's going to grant those behind him an extra place, so they'll say thank you very much and a big well done. But Adam Lyle now, P12, which, you know, after a race that he was in and looked very dicey, just a shame that last lap that he dropped it, but big well done to our top three of Giuliano Giarco, Thomas Potter, and also Kyle Felvis as he lines up alongside his HFT teammate there of Nicky Taylor, potentially for a little photo shot there that he'll take after the race. So a big well done to our teams as we now go to our second ad break of the evening from our sponsor.
What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Nerd PC Turbo Tech Reviews. Now today is something a little bit different. Normally we do just reviews on a single item, but today we're going to be showing you guys what you can expect from Nerd PC. Nerd PC is a bespoke building company where you can get absolutely any sort of style of gaming PC, office work PC, retail, or even for school work. This PC here demonstrates how small they can be, but yet still pack an absolute powerful punch. So from such a small computer like this, you may be worrying about heat, but these fans inside of here keep it absolutely ice cold as well as quiet. Now listen to this. Nice and quiet. Beautiful. Now we build completely different style of computers. Like I said, from this little one up here, it's all down to you. You get to decide on which case you want to use. You get to decide if you want it all flashy and RGB. You get to decide whether you want it completely plain and black. Remember, we did the hard part of figuring out which components work best for you for your value for money, but you get to decide on how it looks. If you're after something that's in your face, some bright and powerful as this. So this build here is in a Gigabyte C102 glass Arctic Ice case with 320mm Cooler Master fans at the front, 360mm all-in-one cooler at the top. This full white ice build does look insane, and I can assure you, you will not be disappointed. So if you're on the market for a brand new shining gaming computer, or if you want a computer for home use, retail, or office work, it's completely down to you. We just make it happen. So if you haven't done already, go and head over to the website at www.nerdpc.co.uk, have a browse through, see what's on there, or drop us a message directly on Facebook, and we'll do our absolute best to make it happen for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you did enjoy this video, hit the like for me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!
Hello everyone and welcome back after our second ad break of the evening. We're going to be joined by Kyle first. Kyle, that was a mega race, even with the success ballast, showing some mega pace and finishing off with another podium in P3 after a really strong outing at Alton Park. How did you find that race for yourself?
Yeah, it was definitely a tough one. I mean, 30 kg of ballast isn't exactly the greatest thing. Tyre wear definitely comes into play now. P3, I mean, it's good points, but you know, I'd want to be further up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like you alluded to, the tyres, everyone seemed to be massively struggling towards the end of the race. And I think it was people like yourself that were able to conserve the tyres at the beginning and then become stronger at the end of the race. How did you sort of find the tyre management on your side of things?
Yeah, to be fair, I thought I just went for it all race. I mean, the tyres, I knew they'd fall off eventually, especially with the extra weight on board. So I was just trying to keep as much time to the cars ahead as I could and just manage them towards the end.
Brilliant. I think that was a lot of drivers' plans, to be honest. How are you where is your mind space at going into this reverse grid race? Obviously it'll be similar to Alton Park, just staying out of trouble and getting those good points, especially for a championship contender like yourself. What is your mindset going into this reverse grid?
Exactly like you said, just stay out of trouble, you know, pick a gap, go through it, and then try and make my way up the field and hopefully get back on the podium.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, hopefully we'll be talking to you again after this race. So, yeah, good luck and have a good one.
Cheers, Tom.
Big well done there to Carl Felvis in P3, especially with that 30 kilos of ballast. It's interesting to see now that, you know, tyre wear is playing a part, as it didn't do in Alton Park, and, you know, people really able to push the tyres in the first round, but they come here to Interlagos, and obviously the The track definitely working itself much different to how it did in the first round, and people now having to think about strategy and conserving tyres and pushing themselves as we move on to our second place interview for Mr. Potter. A very mature drive there, Thomas, and definitely some much needed points after the first round at Alton Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks as well. Just I decided to be, well, for once, smart with my racing this time. Wait for Nicky and, I'm sorry if I say this wrong, but is it Giuliano?
Yeah, Giuliano.
Because, well, after watching the F1, I'm pretty sure an Italian would never miss a move, especially with Kimi. So I was like, yeah, he's definitely going to send us. So I was just going to wait for the next corner, try to get up the inside. I was hoping to get up the inside of Giuliano too, but after that, I didn't. I was just trying to match his pace for basically the whole race and maintain a gap to Kyle, so I didn't lose second.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning here that actually your lap times weren't far off. There was a couple of times that you were potentially, 2, maybe 3 tenths off, but then you'd bring it back on the next lap and match him pace for pace. So clearly you've got the setup dialed in and you've got the pace there. But one thing we did notice was a lot of lockups, potentially down to brake bars or something like that. Talk us through that. What was the situation that you were facing?
To be honest, I'm just not really sure on my brake bar settings, but I've got the pace even with the lockup, so I was just no point really changing it into the second race, but I will work on it for round 3.
And definitely, and how was the tyre management? We heard there from Kyle that the tyres behaved incredibly differently to how they did at Alton Park. How was the tyre management for you? Did the tyres start to go off pretty quickly? Did you push too hard at the start? How was it?
I think my tyres definitely last longer than Kyle's, but I don't think I could have made him last as long as Giuliano, but I was just trying to really conserve him, especially through the middle parts. I knew I've got a strong first and last sector. Just like if I conserve him through the middle part, then they should have lasted longer throughout the whole race.
Gotcha. And what are your feelings coming into the reverse grid race here? Because it's not the first rodeo that you've been in, and you've been in multiple reverse grid races before. What's your mindset and what's your game plan going into this second race?
To be honest, it's just to do what I do best in karting and just send it. Basically hope the best, because if I don't get in front of Kyle and Giuliano, I'm pretty sure that it's a high chance they're going to get away from the start, and then I'm just going to have to try pick them off. So if I just or send it, and then hoping for the best, and hopefully we'll get in a podium again.
Well, big congratulations, Tom, on P2. Is there anyone that you wanted to shout out?
Just want to say huge thanks to all my sponsors, as well as my new manager, which is Ashley Savage, who also runs Green Bricks, as well as Marin, who's helped me funding into the Ginetta Junior side, which I'm not allowed to say too much more on just yet, as well as AutoJack, who've just sent me a massive PR package, which I'm really thankful for, and that's going to help me get my track car built and ready, as well as Gemma Muller, as I'm going to be going there this Wednesday to go on the oil-based skid pan with them this Wednesday, or next Wednesday now.
Incredible. Sounds like plenty of fun. Well, Tom, congratulations on the P2 for race 1, and hopefully be speaking to you potentially in the race interviews in the second race.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, massive well done to Thomas there. Really good race for him. We're joined again by Giuliano. We said we were going to be potentially joined by you again. Absolutely mega race. Managed to just find that gap, find that little bit of pace that no one else had, and just pull away. How were things on your end during the race?
Giù praticamente ti chiede cosa hai provato a essere lì davanti quando sei partito, come hai gestito la gara e come è andata.
Non
l'ho vista.
No, vabbè, sì, vabbè, ho capito. Però sì, digli che ho fatto una buona partenza, diciamo, dopo lui mi ha passato in chicane, dopo sono riuscito a ripassarlo e dopo ho fatto il mio ritmo. Dopo sono riuscito tranquillamente a gestire anche la macchina, non tirando più di tanto.
So the start was good, but in the chicane the Potter passed Giuliano. So after that, Giuliano he tried to pass again, and he make it. After that, he take a good run with the car, and he make a good race. Without mistake, and he and he goes so well, and he finished the race in the first place, so he is so happy.
Brilliant, yeah, and so he should be. It was a mega drive from Giuliano. Second question I wanted to ask is, obviously we've been asking all the drivers about tyre management during the race. How are things on your end, as you seem to keep building that gap throughout the race? Was there something that you guys had found different to anyone else, or?
Ti chiede come pensi di gestire la seconda gara, Giuliano?
Vabbè, innanzitutto non fare errori e uscire indenne dalla prima chicane, poi dopo si vedrà, diglielo, cioè, tranquillo.
So Giuliano say he tried to be a good race, and in the first part of the race, so in the first chicane with the other guys, but after that he will see what's happened.
Brilliant. And last question I wanted to ask, Giuliano, is there anyone you wanted to shout out on stream?
Sorry?
Is there anyone you'd like to say a massive thank you to on stream?
Vuoi chiedere grazie a qualcuno, Giuliano?
Ringrazio il team per avermi aiutato con il setup e tutto, e volevo fare i complimenti a Thomas e a Ferguson.
Say thanks.
Che sono stato anche avvantaggiato dalla zavorra, che non ce l'ho.
Ok, poi quello dopo. He say thanks to the team, to everyone, to the sponsor, and compliments to Potter and Fergus. They are really good guys, and he's so happy to make like a war with them.
Brilliant. Well done for that one, and we might potentially be speaking to you again. Good luck for the reverse grid, and yeah, have a good one.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
And there we go, our top three from race one of Kyle Felvis, Thomas Potter and Giuliano there. A cracking battle, and Giuliano coming out on top there, so some great points scored for him, as we have a minute now until the start of race two, reverse grid race. Now, we saw this at Alton Park, that it got a little bit hairy into T1. The drivers have been told just to keep it calm. You can't win the race on the first lap, and especially on the first corner. So we'll look to see what happens here, as a lot of drivers out of position. All the fast drivers at the back here, and we've got Lachlan Hill starting P1 alongside Jacob Gannon in P2, and then Vince Chan in P3, with Catherine Potter P4, Ricardo Lina P5. And that rounds out the top five on the grid there. So let's see what they can do leading into this race. It's all to play for, and it's now for, you know, the race winners or the podium sitters from race one now to try and make their way through the pack, which can be incredibly difficult at times. So Thomas, I'm going to pass this back over to you again to count the start of this race, and let's see how exciting this becomes.
Indeed, really looking forward to this one. Obviously, reverse grid should produce some mega battles. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Obviously, Lachlan starting from P1 with Jacob alongside. So the lights are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the lights go out now. We are racing again here at Interlagos. A very slow start from Lachlan Hill. Jacob instantly going up to P1, potentially missed the lights or didn't get away quite well. So yeah, he's not had the brilliant of starts. Oh, there's a big tag towards the front of the field. I'm not quite sure who that was, but causes absolute carnage. I'll pass it back over to Joe, because I'm not quite sure with the drivers involved, but yeah, an action-packed start here at Interlagos.
Yeah, and I didn't quite see who that was that managed to spin, but it looks like everyone managed to get through pretty cleanly here. As it looks like everyone did make it through. So apart from Olivia, who seems to potentially got caught up in it, back down in 24th, as the grid is shaping up quite nicely here, as Ricardo Lina takes a solid P2. Catherine Potter up to P3 now. She gets pressurised by Lachlan Hill. Like you say, I'm not sure what happened to the stars. Lachlan Hill gets a big tank zapper on here, runs out wide, and luckily doesn't collect anyone else, but that's going to be a tough one for him starting at the front of the grid, as we see another spin now. A lot of drivers going off, potentially with cold tyres. Who was that went off? Ethan Hill. He's having a disappointing race evening for himself with the PC lock-up in the first race and then spinning in the second one, so it's a tough one for him. As we go back on board Ricardo Lina now in P2, and then Jacob Gannon, who's cleared the field completely with 1.5 second gap. Giuliano's now got himself up into P12 from the back of the grid, so a great run from him. Thomas Potter pressurising Kyle Felvis now in P10. A lot of the cars are grouped together, so this is a great opportunity for maybe not for him to fight with Kyle, but potentially to push with him, even though we're not teammates, and try and make their way through the grid as we have 18 minutes left of this race.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, an action-packed start there. And another interesting point as well, Lachlan Hill getting collected as he was rejoining through no fault of his own, just someone trying to take avoiding action.
Great
not quite
dive bomb
working
there.
out.
Sorry to jump in, but Thomas Potter with a great dive bomb into T1 made it stick. And what was quite interesting there is I think he gave Andrea Rugi a little bit of a bump down the straight to try and get past Kyle Felvis, and he made it stick. So a great run there, big lock up from him, but it's now got him up into P7. Kyle Felvis now back down into P9, a little way away from the cars in front as he goes wide and potentially gets pushed wide by Giuliano. It's a little bit of Robbins racing here. Didn't seem like anything too much, but Thomas Potter now up into P6 as we see Josh Martin. We did speak about him in the first race and said that he was one to watch. Now up into P3 as Johnny Ogden and Jordan Osborne now fighting for P4 and P5. This is shaping up to be a great battle, and everyone much closer, just like they were at Alton Park.
It really is, and Thomas Bottas had a tremendous start, dive bombing someone else into the penultimate corner, so he's really on a charge here. Maybe trying to get a bit of Alton Park redemption potentially. But as we alluded to earlier, Josh Martin with a fantastic start here, and except from Thomas Potter, there's quite a big gap to the rest, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get away and go and hunt Ricardo and Jacob, which will be interesting to see. Catherine Potter also having a good race as well. Kyle trying to follow Thomas through, so yeah, it's action-packed. We've only done 3 minutes.
Yeah, as we see Jacob Gannon go across the line with a 1:34.4. Everyone seems to be pretty much level pegging, apart from Thomas Potter with a 1:33.7. So he's got the pace here as he chases down Jonathan Ogden. Again, big lock up into T1, which has compromised his exit out onto the straight. He may well still be able to get into that toe. It's very finite being able to get into the wash of that car behind. Is he going to be able to tow him down into that next corner? Potentially just too far away now, but Thomas Potter on an absolute charge, a very mature drive from him. Definitely making up from the first race. As I say that, nearly the commentator's curse, he runs out wide, but managed to hold on to it, so a big well done to him. As we see this battle now here for P3, P4 and P5, potentially Josh Martin just struggling just a little bit, with Johnny Ogden and Thomas Potter just really collecting onto the back of him now. This is shaping up to be a very good race.
Indeed, I mean, Thomas Potter is really wagging everything out of that car. We see him through the double right as well, having quite a big moment on the rear end, so he is doing absolutely his utmost to try and get into that podium position and then go and hunt down the top two, which are, you have to say, just getting away from this group at the moment. Josh is bringing sort of Jonathan and Thomas and potentially Jordan as well onto the back as he runs slightly wide on the exit of the final corner, so this will bring Jonathan now into a potential move which Thomas may be able to pick up the pieces from.
Yeah, as you see Nicky Taylor make the move on Catherine Potter for P13, which has allowed Adam Lyle through as Catherine went offline. You know, Nicky Taylor out of position here, and another person out of position is Giuliano Giaco, not making the run that he thought he was going to do. As Josh Martin now going side by side with Johnny Ogden. This is going to bring P5, P6 and P7 into play here as Josh Martin on the inside, he's managed to make the move stick, so keeping P3 there. We know Josh is very good at holding his line, but this is now brought Thomas Potter into play. This could be a really good opportunity for him as he takes the toe now from Johnny Ogden. Is he going to be able to make the move into here? Is he going to settle behind and just bide his time? He knows he's got the pace. This is going to be an opportunity for him to see what he can do, and you know, whether he's going to pick his moment right as he goes up the inside now of Johnny Ogden. Up the outside of Johnny Ogden. Is he going to be able to hang around the outside? Potentially not. He's going to be out on the marbles on the exit. Johnny Ogden really getting squirrely with that car, and you know, potentially under the fire here from Thomas Potter. Maybe just a little bit of pressure on him, but you know, real life racing driver here in Johnny Ogden, that you know, he knows what he's doing, he knows where he needs to place the car, and he knows what he needs to do to keep his position. So this is starting up to be a very good one as they now cut back up to the back of Josh Martin. Realistically, Thomas and Johnny don't really want to be battling too much now. They need to potentially figure out who's the faster driver of the two, let the other person go, and then push up towards the front. You know, they're 4 seconds down now from P1 and Jacob Gannon, who's, you know, having a country cruise now on a Sunday drive out in P1 with Ricardo Lena now just under a second behind him.
Yeah, 100%. Thomas Potter now really interested. He's got the run on Jonathan Ogden. He's going to go to the outside into turn 1. He's going to pinch Jonathan to the outside and move to the outside himself. Super late on the brakes, almost into the back of Josh Martin. Oh my god. Very big lockup. He's still got the inside and Jonathan still holds on to it. So potentially a little bit deep from Thomas Potter there. But yeah, absolutely mega racing here. Which is just allowing Lorenzo and Kyle and Alexander and people like that to really close up onto the back. So we could find ourselves with quite a train here.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in F1 all the time, especially around Interlagos. Going around the outside, it's an opportunity. As Thomas Potter goes wide now onto the grass, manages to hold on to the car. That's dropped him back a little bit, and he's going to come into the grass now. Kyle Felvis and also Lorenzo Centra, who are now pulling up to the back of him. I think Thomas needs to just calm it down now and just tag back onto the back of them. He knows he's got the pace, but maybe pushing just a little bit too hard at the start of this race with 12 minutes left to go. Josh Martin holding that P3 quite nicely from Johnny Ogden, as we then see Ricardo Lina, 3 seconds ahead of the pack, and these two have made that gap out the front in that clean air. Will potentially, Josh Martin, Johnny Ogden, and Thomas Potter be able to catch?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the gap is ever so slightly coming down, even with the battling. So if they were to just calm it down now and work together, I think they would close on Jacob and Ricardo, but obviously that's not something a racing driver wants to do. You want to be constantly going for those moves. So we see a lot of smoke on the main straight. I'm not sure who that was.
And that was Jacob Gannon, P1. He's managed to lose it on the last corner. I don't know, maybe there was some contact there with Ricardo Lina, but he's now back down into P7. So a big loss from him, a big change for the lead here with Ricardo. This is going to bring everyone into contention. As you see Johnny Ogden now getting past Josh Martin for P2. So a big move there into T1, capitalised. Josh Martin's going to get the toe. Is Johnny going to be able to hold the inside line and be able to defend? Josh has got to go the long way around the outside. I don't think he's alongside enough to make it stick. Johnny knows exactly what he needs to do here as Josh goes very late on the brakes round the outside, going side by side. And this is bringing Thomas Potter into the mix now, as it's a three-way battle now for P2. This is really starting to hard. Are we going 3 wide into the next right-hander here as we are? Thomas Potter looking to the inside. Can he dive up the inside? He can't. Josh Martin closes that off as Johnny Ogden goes round the outside again. These are side by side all the way through. This is an incredible battle by the three of them. Very close racing. Everyone giving each other loads of space, which is great to see. Some very fair and clean racing as Thomas Potter makes a move up the inside and makes it stick. He's going to take P3 away from Johnny Ogden. He's going to be kicking himself for that. But if he can get the run coming into the last corner, he may be able to get the toe. Is Thomas close enough to Josh Martin here to be able to drag himself along, which I don't think he is. So Thomas getting a little slidey on the exit there at the last corner. He's going to be in a lot of trouble as Johnny Ogden as well gets it sideways. This is bringing Carl Felvis into the mix. This is going to be an interesting battle now. This is a 5-way battle for P2. As we see Ricardo Lina now 3 seconds out in front. This is all to play for.
It really is. This has allowed Carl to close up onto the back. So this could be perfect, what he needs for his championship hopes. As we see Thomas Potter to the inside of Josh Martin. Is he going to get it stopped? He is going to get it stopped this time. And a wonderful move. As we now see Jonathan Ogden on Josh Martin. And Carl potentially going to pick up the pieces from their little scrap there. So yes, some mega racing here. I think Thomas might have to go on the defensive. And this is all playing into Ricardo's hands as he's just having a nice time with 10 minutes to go.
This is an absolute phenomenal battle as Josh Martin dives at the inside. Thinks better of it. Goes wide, goes sideways. Gets collected by Johnny Ogden. Josh Martin's off. Johnny Ogden's gone on the AstroTurf. He's brought it back in, but this has promoted Carl Felvis up to P3. Lorenzo Centra up now into P4. This is all going topsy-turvy at the front of the grid here. Everyone really battling, but this has given Thomas Potter the get-out-of-jail-free card that he needed. A very mature drive from him, but he's now under pressure from Carl Felvis. Do these two work together to try and push up to the front and find 3 seconds to Ricardo Lina, who's, again, Sunday drive out the front here. Can he make it stick? This is a WRT driver here. He knows he's a very established driver. He's been in multiple race leagues. I'm sure he knows exactly what he's doing, just conserving those tyres. Be interesting to see what Carl and Thomas now can do.
Yeah, 100%. That has played really well into Kyle's hopes for the championship. As actually the pace from Thomas and Kyle here that they're showing is quicker than Ricardo, so it will be interesting to see with 9 minutes to go if they have the pace and the gap small enough that there is a challenge for the lead. As they come across the line, the gap is going to be 2.6, so 0.3 was taken out that lap, even with all that battling. So if they can just bang in some nice consistent laps now, it'll be interesting to see if Ricardo gets put under any pressure.
Yeah, and Thomas Potter again locking up into that first corner, so not quite got the setup right, as he alluded to, and needs to have a mess about with it. But Carl Felvers 2/10 quicker than Thomas Potter on that last lap, even with 30 kgs of ballast. So Carl on an absolute charge here, knows what he needs to do. He's a proven race winner in multiple championships. I'm sure he's going to push onto the back of Thomas as Thomas goes wide there, which isn't going to help his run. Will Kyle be able to get onto the back of him and drag him down, potentially into that last corner? If he can keep it clean and Thomas keeps making mistakes, this might be the opportunity he needs to get up into P2. There's a gap now to the front, to first place now comes down to 1.9 seconds. So every lap that we're coming through here, Kyle and Thomas are catching hand over foot, as we see a battle here for P6, 7, 8 and 9. As Bettini takes the position there for Alexander Link, so a little getting together there. Johnny Ogden in P7, and actually a great drive here from Jordan Osborne in P5, and he's managed to clear the team and make a nice gap for himself to be able to push on after Lorenzo Sentra. So, you know, very well done there for Jordan Osborne. He's managed to clear the pack, and let's see if he can push up into P4.
Indeed, and the person that we haven't really alluded to is Giuliano, having a really difficult race in this reverse grid, potentially just not capitalising on the start, on the action, and where this group has sort of spread it out now, he's lost the chance, but he's still on the back of his teammate, and P10, I think that's Josh Martin, so it'll be interesting to see if there's any more moves from him. But yeah, it was interesting to see. I thought he would be a lot more higher up, but yeah, interesting how the race has panned out. As we see Thomas now only 1.6 behind Ricardo, and Kyle in hot pursuit as well. So yeah, I think there is going to be a few last lap dashes for the lead.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. Is Giuliano, when you look at his last lap time, 1:33.5, when you compare that to the likes of Thomas Pott with a 1:33.1, Kyle with a 1:33.2, he's not far off the pace of the top runners, so it makes me think that potentially he's just been stuck in traffic, maybe biding his time as he gets a little loose on the entry curve there into that left-hander as he dives up the inside. Potential team orders here and switching out with Sciurti. Maybe he was a little bit quicker than Sciurti, and you know he knows that as well, and allowing Giuliano to go for it, seeing as he's got the points from the first race, and you know we discussed this. You know, these teams that are working together, they're always going to have that one driver that's potentially out there in front, or is the favourite driver of the pack. And you know, as we see Giuliano here now diving in, chasing after Josh Martin, it's obvious he's got the pace. It's just whether he can make that stick and gain those points positions that he needs.
Yeah, 100%. Thomas and Kyle now really close to Ricardo. Lorenzo not too far behind as well, so if anything kicks off, he's there to pick up the pieces. Jonathan recovering nicely from an earlier incident, and then Alexander and Josh and that battle behind really heating up. As you see Kyle super late on the brakes, right behind Thomas Potter now, so yeah, with 5 minutes to go, this race is really heating up.
Yes, we just see Josh Martin run into the back of Giuliano there. It looks like Josh had a tough exit out of the last corner, and Giuliano managed to capitalise on it. Managed to keep it both pointing in the straight line. Adam Lyle now out and back into the pits, as well as Ethan Hill, so a difficult race for them. Sciurti and Andrea Ruggi both battling it out there for P13 and P12. Johnny Ogden now losing out and going sideways there and spinning around in the middle of the track. Let's hope, just as soon as it's not on the racing lines, it's very, very interesting spin around there in the middle of the track. Lucky he didn't collect anyone there, so that might be one for the stewards to look at. As Thomas Potter now, Carl Felvers side by side for P2 as they're on the back of Ricardo Lina, pushes him out wide. Carl's up the inside, made it stick, and he's dived that for P2. A great run as Thomas Potter just runs into the back of him. They need to be careful here. They don't want to do anything too silly. They can sniff first place out in front of him. They've got the pace to do it. So let's see if Thomas Potter can now jump back onto the back of Carl. All he needs is a good run out of this last corner, not make any mistakes, don't get the car sideways as he has done there. Absolutely beautiful stuff as he tucks back on the back of Carl. Carl's clearly going to go defensive to try and hold him off. 4 minutes 20 left this race, plus 1 lap. Carl goes to the inside as they're side by side. Thomas is going to go around the outside. A little bit of wheel banging, but it looks like Thomas is going to clear him before the start. Who's going to be the latest one on the brakes here? Carl thinks better of it as Tom goes very wide and wipes out Ricardo Lina there. That's a very, very interesting run into the first corner. Far too late on the brakes there. That's definitely going to be one for the stewards, unfortunately. And do you know what? That's a really tough one. I mean, they were all pushing so well together, but do you know the benefactor out of this is going to be Carl Felvers, who now commands a a 1.2 second lead. He's going to be rubbing his hands together in delight. Those two colliding behind as Ricardo Lina now down into P4. I'm sure he's not going to be too impressed with that one, but you know, we can't point fingers at anyone. It was definitely a late lunge, but that's going to be one for the stewards to decide who was at fault for there. But as we see now, roles reversed. Kyle Felvis out in P1 with a 1.3 second lead from Thomas Potter, and then Lorenzo Sentra chasing down Thomas Potter, all within pretty much 0.2 of one another. So let's see what they can do.
Yeah, we see Thomas really deep onto the brakes in turn 1. In other moves we've seen throughout this evening's racing, he's been lucky enough not to hit anyone in those moves, but it was just Ricardo potentially turning in slightly later than everyone else. Thomas going in extremely deep, and they've just met in the middle. So yeah, it'll be one for the stewards to look at, but we obviously know there was nothing intentional or harmful that was meant by Thomas there, so we can all go about our racing for the final 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I think Thomas see that potentially Ricardo had gone in a bit late into that first corner. He looked to go around, dive around the outside, and looked up to try and keep out the way, and just caught the rear end of him. So, you know, it's a difficult one there to judge, but we'll leave that down to the race stewards to decide and go back over. As we see Jacob Gannon here battling it out with Alexander Link and Christian Bettini now for 6th, 7th, and 8th, and they're running three in a row right now, with the toe coming in for Jacob Gannon. He goes up the inside. Can he make the move stick? Which it looks like he can, as they both dive into the corner, give each other plenty of room. Runs him out wide as they now go 3 abreast into the next section. This is going to be interesting. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? There's contact in the middle there, bit of wheel-to-wheel banging, but they all seem to have made it through unscathed. As I say that, and the commentator's curse bites again, as Jacob Gannon collides with Alexander Link, and that's given Bettini the run through that he needed.
Yeah, just again the open wheel contact. I think yeah, your spatial awareness has to be so key in these cars, and yeah, it's just another racing incident. As we move on now, Thomas is bringing that gap down to Kyle, obviously with no success ballast, so it'll be interesting to see if Kyle does have to go defensive in these final couple of laps, but yeah, it's heating up towards the end now.
Yeah, 2 laps potentially left of this race, maybe 3. Let's just see when they cross the line. I think no, it's going to be 2 laps now, so it's going to be this lap, and then the final lap there is Thomas Potter does a 1:32.9. Kyle with a 1:33.5, so 5/10 down on Thomas, so that ballast is really starting to hurt Kyle here. Has Thomas got the opportunity now? If he can pump in another lap like he did before, by the end of this lap he should be right on the back of Kyle. And this could be an opportunity for Thomas to make the move and potentially take the race lead here, as long as he can keep that car on the track, not do anything silly, as they both run wide. So both going to lost time through there, so no advantage gained, no advantage lost. This is shaping up to be a race for the lead into the last lap, as Thomas Potter now only 3/10 behind Kyle Felvis. As we come through this complex here, Thomas Potter running wide again onto that curb. Kyle very slow into that left-hander, into the right-hander, and then again into this left-hander. Does he get the exit that he needs? Thomas Potter now just dropping back just a little bit, but you know, I'm thinking maybe if he comes into this last corner, he's going to get the run that he wants after Kyle. We know that Kyle is an incredibly quick driver. We've said it before, we'll say it again. He's going to put that car in some very difficult positions for Thomas, and potentially might not be able to get past him. So this is all heating up as we come on to the final lap of this race.
He is indeed, and it'll be interesting to see if Thomas does get close enough on this final lap, which potentially he will, because the gap is closer. If Kyle, you know, he probably won't know about the contact, he will know about the contact actually, because he was just behind. Whether he thinks maybe that there's going to be a post-race investigation and he's just going to let Thomas go and then see what comes of it, or if he is going to genuinely fight it out. I think what we're seeing at the moment, he is going to genuinely fight it out. 4/10 is the gap as we go on to the final lap of the race now. Thomas looking feisty as ever, so there is potentially going to be a last lap lunge.
Yeah, Thomas Potter only 2/10 quicker going into that last lap, as you see Kyle Felvis go defensive, making sure that Thomas can't pick up the toe. Comes back across to get the race in line and get the best exit out of that corner. Thomas Potter hunting him down. He is pushing hard after Kyle, and I think Kyle knows exactly what he needs to do through this complex. It's going to be incredibly hard for him to overtake through here. Relissa, all I can see is unless Carl makes a mistake into some of these corners here, Thomas Potter again a lot of understeer into that right-hander, is that Carl may well just take the win. As we see Thomas Potter here really tucking in behind him. This could come down to a last corner drag race to the straight. You know, is Carl going to be able to get the exit he needs? This is going to be what makes the difference between the win and the not, as Thomas Potter has to turn out of that, almost loses the rear end, and that dropped him back. This might be what Carl needs to solidify the win as they come into the last corner. Carl Felvis gets a great exit out. Thomas Potter running a little bit wide. I don't think Thomas Potter's close enough. I think Carl Felvis has got this nailed. I think he's done what he needs.
I think he has. Kyle is going to be watching those mirrors. He's going to be keeping it wide, in fact. He's going to be going for the line. He's going to be getting closer and closer and closer. Thomas is going to be gaining. But it's going to be Kyle that takes the win with Thomas P2.
Enough. Yeah. What a fantastic race.
Yeah, absolutely mega. Kyle did really well to hang on at the end there. Thomas also drove a great race with Lorenzo coming home in P3. Ricardo with a great recovery up to P4. Jordan 5th and Cristiano 6th. Jacob with a difficult race down in 7th. And Josh with a good result in 8th.
What a fantastic race that was. And you know, as commiserations to those like Giuliano that just didn't manage to make the movements that he expected to do. But Carl Felvis and Thomas Potter coming out on top and taking it down to the last lap. A big well done. And you can see in the YouTube chat here, there's a lot of fans here for Carl and for Thomas, and big well dones to them in the chat. So, you know, everyone rooting them on, and I think Carl was very happy with that one. I think he felt the pressure coming into that last lap, especially with that ballast, and he's managed to bring it home in P1. So a solid performance from Kyle there, which is more than likely going to solidify his first place in the championship. So a big well done to him. So we're going to go to a short ad break now. We're going to let the drivers go back to the pits, collect themselves, and we'll move on to our race interviews.
What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Nerd PC Turbo Tech Reviews. Now today is something a little bit different. Normally we do just reviews on a single item, but today we're going to be showing you guys what you can expect from Nerd PC. Nerd PC is a bespoke building company where you can get absolutely any sort of style of gaming PC, office work PC, retail, or even for school work. This PC here demonstrates how small they can be, but yet still pack an absolute powerful punch. So from such a small computer like this, you may be worrying about heat, but these fans inside of here keep it absolutely ice cold as well as quiet. Now listen to this. Nice and quiet. Beautiful. Now we build completely different style of computers. Like I said, from this little one up here, it's all down to you. You get to decide on which case you want to use. You get to decide if you want it all flashy and RGB. You get to decide whether you want it completely plain and black. Remember, we did the hard part of figuring out which components work best for you for your value for money, but you get to decide on how it looks. If you're after something that's in your face, some bright and powerful as this. So this build here is in a Gigabyte C102 glass Arctic ice case with 320mm cooler master fans at the front, 360mm all-in-one cooler at the top. This full white ice build does look insane, and I can assure you, you will not be disappointed. So if you're on the market for a brand new shining gaming computer, or if you want a computer for home use, retail, or office work, it's completely down to you. We just make it happen. So if you haven't done already, go and head over to the website at www.nerdpc.co.uk, have a browse through, see what's on there, or drop us a message directly on Facebook, and we'll do our absolute best to make it happen for you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you did enjoy this video, hit the like for me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!
Welcome back, and what a thrilling race 2 reverse grid that it was there, taking it all the way down to the wire to the last lap between Thomas Potter and Kyle Felvers. But we're here to interview our third place driver, Lorenzo Centra. What a drive, and very well done for P3. How was it?
It was a really fun race, and the reverse grid was very fun in this case, because it's a little bit easy than the first race. I can't believe it to have reached this position, and I'm very enjoyed. And I try to keep the pace for all the race, but it was very hard to take the other driver in front of me, and I try to do my best for the next race, and that's it.
Yeah, well, a big congratulations for the position that you came in, and what was quite interesting was, you know, you say that you were struggling to keep on pace with the drivers in front of you, but actually, you know, you were within a tenth of a second of the guys in front, so keeping pace with them quite nicely. And actually, it was starting to hot up a little bit as P1 and P2 were battling there. So, you know, what goes through your mind when you go into this reverse grid race? What are you thinking as you start the race?
Yeah, I think to take a safe pace, because to not cause other problem or something, and I try to keep a safe pace and take the position to not come si dice,
Dimmi.
per non rovinare la gara.
Non rovinare la gara. Just to don't make some
Mistakes.
mistake with the other guys.
Of course. And how were the tyres? Just finally, how were the tyres for you in that race? We saw a lot of drivers that really struggled with tyres towards the back end of the race, which they didn't do at the first round at Alton Park. How did you manage those?
Yeah, I kept my pace, and the tire is what it was good to the end of the race, because I haven't a fast pace, and my tires was safe in this case.
Amazing stuff. And is there anyone you'd like to shout out or say a big thank you to whilst you're on the stream?
Vuoi chiedere grazie a qualcuno, ringraziare?
Yeah, will be. I would congrats with my team, and the other driver, Giuliano Giacco, for the first race, and that's it.
Amazing stuff. Well,
Con
congratulations
anche
on the P3, and we look forward to seeing you in the next round.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, hello. I am back with Teapot now, known as Thomas Potter. Thomas, that was another great race, finishing off in P2. Yeah, talk us through how that race was. Obviously, coming from the back of the field, got up to the front very quickly, and then yeah, had some great battles.
Yeah, well, at the start I just tried to be as aggressive as possible. I just try to get as much positions as I can. I try to keep clean of contact, but I know some was made, so I am sorry to the drivers that I did. Then after that, I was just trying my hardest to get past Jonathan Ogden without trying to let Lorenzo, I think it was, and Kyle to catch up. But in the end, they did, and then had some good battles through there. As soon as I got past Josh and Johnny, I was just trying to push them and trying to get Kyle out of slipstream. But in the end, it never worked out, and Kyle ended up overtaking me. Then yeah, after that, I was just pushing, trying to get back within a tenth of them to try beat him across the line.
Yeah, certainly. Well, you certainly showed us on the stream with some very big sideways moments and really ragging everything you had out of the car and the tyres. Talk us through how it was, how your mental sort of preparation was for the reverse grid race. Obviously, you have to go into it with a sort of survival mentality, but also a sort of aggressive mentality to try and get to the front as quickly as possible. Talk us through sort of what were your thoughts going through the race as you started it.
Well, I mean, at the start, I just went to the inside and prayed. Really, that's like everything that went through my mind was just to pray that it worked out. In the end, it did, and then throughout the whole race, I was more being aggressive while trying to save my tyres. So at the end, I could really push and try get close to P1 as it did. Just couldn't beat Kyle, unfortunately. But basically, just trying to be aggressive while keeping calm and keeping on the track.
100%. And obviously, I assume you've enjoyed Interlagos this evening. Your pace has certainly reflected that. What are your sort of thoughts going into the next round at Long Beach? Are you confident for that one, or are you sort of on the fence about it?
I mean, I haven't really done much drive around Long Beach, but I think my main goal is just to get this setup dialed in like I did for this one, and just try to get my pace up there, then really make the setup ready to save tyres for the race. And
Brilliant. Well, yeah, brilliant evening racing, Thomas. Well done, and yeah, can't wait to hopefully chat to you at the next round.
yeah, thank you.
Big well done there to Thomas Potter, who comes home in P2, and a great night's racing for him, and some much needed points after his first round at Oulton Park. But we move on to our race winner from race 2, Carl Felvers. This seems like a walk in the park for you now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, good race. Started from the back, had a bit of contact at the beginning. Someone went into the back end, but from there, just looked to make positions and then pick people off one by one and got to the front.
So talk to me about this race ballast that you've got. I know we spoke to the viewers just around, you know, this 30 kilos of ballast that you have, and it was very obvious that down the straight, that was definitely hindering not only your straight line speed but also tyre life too. So just talk me through how you were trying to manage that.
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely a lot of work in the setup, just fine tweaks just to make sure that, you know, I had still some straight line speed down the straights, but ultimately it came down to setup and then just learning the car.
And, you know, Thomas Potter pushing you all the way there, especially at the end of the race, matching you for lap times, and then managing to make the tyres last a little bit longer without that success ballast. You know, how close did you think it was going to be coming into that last lap for Thomas to potentially make a move on you?
Yeah, for sure. It was going to be close, but in the back of my mind I would have settled for P2 because I think the Studs would definitely be looking at the laps previous to that. So, yeah, in the back of my mind it was a good game really, and if I got to P2 then that was okay.
Well, a dominating drive there from you, Carl, and a big congratulations for that. Anyone you want to shout out whilst you're on the stream?
Probably Nicky and Ethan, they're my teammates. Ethan not had the best night, but Nicky came in. This is his first round of the season, and he put on a good show, so well done to them.
Well, big congratulations, Carl, and look forward to seeing what you can do in the third round of the championship.
Cheers, Joe.
And there we have it then, our top 3 from the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 Championship there. What a cracking battle that race 2 was, and Thomas Potter and Carl Felvers really pushing each other all the way to the end to end a great night's racing, so a big well done to them. That is our night's racing over. One last thing just to look at here is the race calendar now, moving on to March 26th at Red Bull Ring, which is set to be an incredibly interesting race. It'd be interesting to see what the tyres are like. It'd be interesting to see what the drivers can do and how they can hone their setups, and we look forward to a great night's racing them. You have been watching the Phoenix Sim Racing F4 Championship with myself and with Thomas Merritt, and we hope you have a great evening and hope you enjoyed the race championship. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next round.